Oh, that's LaRusso's kid. Yeah, he's been
You okay?
hurt, got a broken nose.
If it isn't obvious, LaRusso, you're out. Nice hit, Kenny.
Seriously? My son is bleeding here.
Well, you better get used to it, Daniel. Because the Sakai Taikai is going to do a hell of a lot worse.
Hey, what's your deal, man? It's like you're slipping back in the bad boy barns.
Yeah? Well, maybe that's a good thing. If I'd been my old self, maybe Silver wouldn't have burned my business to the ground.
Slipping back into bad boy barns, okay, according to what he's saying. Now, in terms of the kid, LaRusso's kid, is there any animosity do you have unconsciously as the character?
No, absolutely not. I think that it's a function of there is very little time, and I want them to understand the gravity of what they're getting into, and that I understand that it's brutal that he just got a bloody nose, but they need to understand that it's going to get a lot worse, and they have to be prepared for it and be toughened up for it.
But as Bad Boy Barnes, have you totally forgiven Daniel for beating you 30 years ago? Did you?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're not holding it against the generational son.
No, as a matter of fact, I think...
You're talking about Bad Boy Barnes.
I think in my head, Barnes is certainly not getting paid for this, and he is doing this as a way to further himself down the road of redemption with Daniel. It's another way of saying, I'm sorry, and also trying to advise these kids so they don't make the same mistakes. In season 5, we saw Barnes verbally say, I'm sorry, I feel terrible about that.
Yes.
This is actually put in action.
Okay. However, the dad is mad at you, right? And he's saying, this is the old Bad Boy Barnes, because the kid was hit in the nose, right? So that's the other part of this is, Carl Jung talked about the dark side or the shadow personality, right? Shadows can be both good and bad. It's a part of us that we're not aware of. It could be aggressive impulses. And of course, Freud talked about the id. The id is that part of us that's irresistible impulse and maybe aggressive impulse. Now, some of those can be positive, like anger can be useful to avenge injustice, right? To right wrongs. So we're going to look at that part. So is there a part of you that has the bad boy shadow, do you think, in some ways?
Well, I think there's a part of all of us that has it.
Yes.
And I completely agree with what you said about anger. Anger, unfortunately, is one of the easiest emotions for human beings to manufacture. It's also one of the easiest for actors to manufacture. But under the right context, anger that's controlled can be useful. And I talk about that in my books. You just have to, I used that expression before when we were talking about holding a tiger by the tail.
Yes.
You have to be careful with it.
Of course. But the thing is, that's interesting, is that being able to apply it in an intelligent way, right? That's the key, right? To channel the anger, right? And we're going to talk about things like balance and other things that you talked about in your books. Because basically part of you is a warrior, right? We're talking about the warrior mentality, right? And the key is, I talk about compassionate warrior, which is a kind of a blend of that, which we can get into. All right.